All right, so I'm going to start off with a little bit about men's rights, men's equality. Um, I noticed that although I fight for a lot of people's rights, anytime I fight for men's rights or speak up about a man's point of view or the abuse that we have to take, I lose subscribers. Which, believe it or not, this ain't a goddamn popularity contest for me. I just posted a link. It's called Let's Talk, Equal Rights, Equal Fights. The way that I've been treated is specifically because I have a penis. See, I have rights as a human being, and they're not observed because I have a penis. I have rights as a disabled person that are, again, not observed because I have a penis. Meanwhile, the term mentally ill has been used extremely loosely to try to insinuate that I am schizophrenic, um, bipolar, and what was the other one? Delusional. Now, yesterday, as some of you may know, I went and saw a psychologist. It's the first time that I've actually been able to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist since Natalie died that wasn't tainted by officers. See, that's the thing. When you try to tell on officers, you're not going to get heard. I have to be able to subpoena all of these people, and I can't even go to the state of Colorado because I will be harmed again by law enforcement and the justice system. It's injustice. No matter where I go, I have to deal with that because of a reputation that is undeserved. That is primarily due to police officers and sheriff's deputies and sheriffs like Scott DeCoste. Now, let me give you a brief history on Scott DeCoste, starting before Natalie died. Before Natalie died, I didn't know Scott DeCoste existed. I knew we had a sheriff in Chapel, Nebraska, but I didn't know who. Natalie Bollinger and her friends were strung out on fucking drugs. Not my fault. I didn't give them the drugs. I didn't do the drugs with them. I didn't promote the drugs. Matter of fact, if you look at our conversations between each other, I was doing my best to help her get sober in the best way I could. The thing is, addicts have to get sober on their own. Natalie Bollinger was an addict. Her twin sister, Alicia Bollinger, is an addict. In 2015, I hurt my back, and I found out who my real friends were. Nobody. I have no real friends. People pretended to be my friends when they got something out of me, but when they couldn't get anything out of me, it was time to throw me away. Now, that does go into men's rights quite a bit. How men are disposable. We're not human beings to American society, especially not to women. Women in the United States are taught that men are expendable. Men are there to be used. That doesn't feel very good. You wonder why your boyfriend wants to play video games. I'll tell you why he wants to play video games. Because it's better than your bullshit. The difference between having a friend and having a girlfriend is sex. That's it. The problem is the thought of sex boils brains. Let's say you have sex. Let's say that you can last for 4 hours, right? Now, who really wants to do that for 4 hours? I can get the job done in 30 seconds or less solo. Why would I waste 4 hours of my life for that 5 seconds of joy that I get at the end? Why would I do that? Why would I want to please a woman in that way with all of the excess bullshit that I got to deal with? I don't have to take myself out on a date. I don't have to buy myself flowers. I don't have to buy myself anything. I can do the job myself. Many homeowners in America are learning that themselves. Well, I can either hire a contractor for $20,000 or I can do the job myself for $2,000 in materials and a YouTube video. There's all of these expectations of men to provide, provide, provide. All these women saying, oh, I don't need a man. I can do it all by myself. And through my history of knowing them, they've always been dependent on men. We train women to lie. We teach them a bunch of bullshit about how everything in their life is because all men are oppressors. No, you are oppressive towards men with your gender bullshit. So I had to deal with that gender bullshit. Where a woman does something fucked up and she blames the man. It is always the man's fault, and that is American society. And anytime somebody speaks up about that, they get a lot of hate. I am a victim of sexual assault. I am a survivor of sexual assault. It is not okay for other victims of sexual assault to be treating me like shit because of my gender. I get that it was probably your dad who raped you. Probably. But there's still a decent chance that it was your mother. There's still a decent chance that it was a female teacher. So let's get back to Scott DeCoste. Scott DeCoste is like most police officers, doesn't give a shit unless it's a pretty white girl. Before Natalie was killed, almost a year before she was killed, January 7th or 8th, I believe, of 2017, things had gotten serious enough with the abuse from Natalie Bollinger and her hangers on that I had to try to get a hold of the police, that I had to try to get help, and everyone had been blowing me off. I'd been to Miss Peaches. That's Kayla Trujillo. She lived off of 120th and Melody in Aurora, Colorado. December of 2016, I had gone there to get help. The problem is there was a guy there named Joshua Bear who doesn't hear anything that anyone else has to say. He thinks that it is his place to be an asshole to literally everyone. Now that was my one chance before Natalie was killed. And it was over a year before she was killed. Because after that, Miss Peaches didn't hear a goddamn word I had to say. She kept on giving me the same sexist treatment that all women in the United States perpetuate. And yes, I said all women. If you're turning a blind eye to it, you are perpetuating it. If you know of any women who don't turn a blind eye to it, let me know. And I'll take that statement back. But after you let me know, I'm going to look it up. Know that. So, in January of 2017 was the first time that I dealt with the law enforcement here in Chapel, Nebraska about Natalie Bollinger and her friends. I was taken to Sydney and they were trying to put me in on an EPC hold. Instead, the hospital there in Sydney hooked me up with a lady named Nicole Peralta and another lady named, hold on a second, Tamara from Region 1. Now, it's a two-part system there. You have to see the therapist once a week, and you also have to see your caseworker once a week. My caseworker was Tamara, and my therapist was Nicole Peralta. Now, for almost a year before Natalie was killed, I was going to my appointments and going to my appointments and seeing these people and jumping through all the hoops that I was told by these people that if I jump through these hoops, there will be help for me to stop the abuse by Natalie Bollinger and her friends and family. That is specifically what I jumped through all of this bullshit for before Natalie was killed. But after half a year of bullshit from Region 1, it was pretty obvious nothing was actually going to happen. Now, it wasn't all bullshit. See, that's the thing about Tamara. Tamara knew what the fuck she was doing, and she was working with me. She quit her job so the things that happened to me didn't happen to her son, who is also autistic. So then there was 3 more occasions after that where I flagged officers over because there were people who were threatening me, and it wasn't okay. I take threats against my life and against my family's lives very seriously. But because I have a penis, it is socially acceptable. And I know that there are going to be people, because I'm sticking up for men. I am a man. I have a penis. I'm not going to fight for everyone's rights but my own. I am fighting for equal rights. Meanwhile, all of these groups have special rights. There are no special rights for white people. There are no special rights for men. And we're told that that's because of all these differences that don't actually fucking exist. If you write a list and you put women on one side and men on the other side, and you want to write about all of their special rights, the men will have nothing there. You want to make all of these excuses, any numbers that don't match up with your excuses, you just pretend they don't exist. Or you manufacture some bullshit. Or you make fun of that man, and it's not okay. Many officers made fun of me because of this situation. But because I am a male, I am on my own. I need help. My disabilities are used as an excuse to harm me. They use the term mentally ill very loosely to try to insinuate that I am things that I'm not, such as schizophrenic. Now, when I went to the sheriff's department on 3 different occasions, sorry, I didn't go to the sheriff's department. I saw the officers and I flagged them over, which is a little bit different. Now, when those officers talked to me, they told me they had real police work to do. And they also said that I needed to just man up. That is what's wrong with all of this. This entire country. It all comes down to that, doesn't it? A man cannot be a victim. A white person cannot be a victim. Well, what if that white person is a woman? What if that man is black? Can a black man be victimized? Can a white woman be victimized? Is it specifically just white men that cannot be victimized? Oh, it happened to a white guy? Oh, no, nobody would ever do that to a white guy. It's fucking insane. So let's go on further in the year. March. That's when Tim Beeson started getting a hold of me on the internet. Now, prior to that, I'd had several calls from people claiming to be Natalie's boyfriend, threatening to kill me, and so on and so forth, threatening to kill my family, and so on and so forth. But did the cops give a shit? No. Because I'm a man, my disabilities magically don't exist. Like, all these people who are anti-Nazi and anti all this, that, and the other have it in their head that white men are perfect. Like nobody would ever do anything wrong to a white man. Like nobody is capable of doing anything wrong to a white man. How the fuck can we sell that narrative? So, after moving to Colorado and going through the Colorado Coalition of the Homeless, and a woman named Nicole Gerald, and my caseworker's name was Kara Heller, and my therapist guy, his name was Jeff Ritter, through the Colorado Coalition of the Homeless. Just prior to Natalie's death, he was supposed to be helping me get an attorney, get a lawyer so that I could get help. He said he couldn't do that unless I got paperwork. I got paperwork on the 16th of December of 2017. I shouldn't have had to go through over a year of that bullshit being ignored, being blown off, being brushed off, and being treated like shit by people who were supposed to be my friends. Kayla Trujillo, until about 2 weeks before Natalie was killed, Kayla Trujillo treated me completely like shit about the scenario, or outright ignored me, or claimed that she was going to help me, and I would go over there, and she didn't have time because she was busy with her kids. That's understandable. But then when her kids went to bed, she was busy playing video games. So when was I going to have the time to get the help? Whenever I made time to go over there and get the help, she was too busy. Now, the kids I can understand, the video games I don't. So I dealt with the police here in Chapel, Nebraska on 4 different occasions about the situation of Natalie before she was killed. Then in December, Jeff Ritter told me that he wasn't going to be able to help me until after the first of the year. Well, as we all know, we didn't make it that far. Natalie Bollinger was shot on December 29th of 2017. So I didn't get to take her to court. There was also the fact that I thought she was in Virginia. When she died, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. They were getting a hold of me. So I was kind of weirded out by the whole damn situation. All right, not kinda. Now, this is where the situation with Deuel County Sheriff's Department really starts to become an issue. Now, we're not going to realize it's an issue for a few months. See, here's the thing is that the Deuel County Sheriff's Department knew that they screwed up. The Boulder Police Department had to do everything that they could to shut my voice up because I had been outspoken for the homeless for years. And they couldn't seem to trump up the right charges. Homeless people are treated inhumanely. I personally believe that we should arm 500,000 homeless people and allow them to fucking defend themselves for Jesus fucking sake. Holy Christ. So after Natalie was killed, officers of the Boulder Police Department refused to do anything about the abuse that I was taking. Adams County refused to do anything about the abuse I was taking. And of course, Chapel Police Department was aware of the situation. They were aware of the situation nearly a year before all this shit went down. So then let's fast forward. We're going to fast forward to my grandma's funeral. At my grandma's funeral, this is April, I believe, of 2017. My grandma had died, and Ted Bollinger, was getting a hold of me on YouTube. He was getting a hold of me on Alicia Bollinger's account. He was asking for my phone number, which Alicia Bollinger had, which really set off a red flag. He fucked with me for 7 goddamn hours. 7 hours of harassment. And then I get treated like I'm a villain for speaking up about it. Well, that was when I met Jordan Anderson, and Jordan Anderson did not take it seriously. And he did not fill out a police report. He didn't do his job. He literally did not do his job. Not that they had done their job before that. So I was at Laura Nelson's here in Chapel, Nebraska. She's got a store called Nettie's Treasures. It's a secondhand store. And me and Graham were there. And Graham went outside and told them that I was autistic. When the officer said, "Is this just one of those things where he needs someone to talk to?" Graham is fucking stupid. He is dumb as a fucking stump. He is sheltered. He is spoiled. He's a moron. He said, "Yes. It's just one of the things, one of these situations where you just need somebody to talk to." No, I needed somebody to do their fucking job. So let's fast forward a couple of months. I think it was end of May when I was finally given the CD that has the recording on it of that situation. But it was only half of the situation. And Jordan Anderson literally never wrote a police report. There's no after action report at all. Because this officer, like many officers, are not going to do their job if you have a penis. So let's fast forward a little bit longer. I get to see this video and I am fucking pissed. I'm pissed off at Graham like a motherfucker. Like, holy Christ, dude. If you'd have told them what the fuck is going on, if Laura Nelson hadn't stood there like a fucking moron, like a goddamn deer with her head in the fucking lights, if she'd have fucking spoken up. And on that video, you can see that her eyes get real big when fucking Graham opens his mouth. Because she knows that was fucking stupid of him. But she's a coward. Obviously, she's not going to say a goddamn thing. It would have been nice to know how many of these supposed good people in my life were actually pieces of shit. And a coward is a piece of shit. They will watch you get hung. They will watch you get murdered. They will watch you get raped and not say a goddamn thing because they're fucking cowards. So I go to Scott DeCoste and I tell him, "Hey, did you watch that video?" He said, "I watched the first couple of minutes of it." I said, "Why'd you stop watching it?" He said, "Well, your friend came out and said you were bipolar." Oh, so bipolar, it's magically not a crime. Is that what you're saying, you son of a bitch? Meanwhile, Graham did not say that I was bipolar. What did he say? Well, let's find the video here. Click on your channel, and then we will go to customize channel. Is that right? Or is, no, that's not it. Let's try this one. Manage videos. Filter. Age restricted, copyright claims, description, made for kids, title, views, visibility. That's not it either. Perhaps the dashboard. No. Oh, it says I lost 2 subscribers in the last 28 days. Oh, scary. All right, let me see. Perhaps content. Obviously, I'm not real good at this. We'll try your channel again. And then we'll go to your videos. Maybe that'll be it. No. God, this is a pain. I'm sorry about that, folks. I'm not exactly good with this. There's some stuff I can find pretty easily. Maybe this one. That works. All right. Sort by date added oldest. Here's the one from Jordan Anderson. Copy link address. Let's put it right up here for God and everybody to see. Matter of fact, I'm going to click on that one.
Hello. What's going on?
So before you go in, there's a few things you need to know. The man who called you has Asperger's and Tourette's, and he's kind of having a panic attack right now.
Okay.
And he believes that one of his friends is in danger.
Okay.
And if you could, just with the grace and love of God, just, kind of listen to him. Just,
so is this kind of one of those things where somebody just needs to listen to him and let him?
Yeah. Okay. Just let him talk. And,
okay.
Just,
okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right, I'm not sure if you guys can hear that, so it's probably not worth doing a whole hell of a lot with. You guys have access to the link there, so you can click on it and see part of what went down. Obviously, I don't know if you guys were able to hear it, but if you were able to hear it, you got to hear Graham tell him that I was autistic and have Tourette syndrome. It's a pretty screwed up situation. So then the situation got even more complicated. See, because at this point, obviously, this is the video that I got on the CD. I got it from Scott DeCoste. And he let me know that it was going to cost me money if I wanted any more of those. And there are multiple situations that I was trying to get. He never looked into them and never tried. He tried telling me later on. Now, he has admitted that, yes, I did go to the hospital in January of 2017, and it was one of his deputies who took me. But then later on, he claims that none of his officers were aware prior to Natalie dying. None of his officers were aware of the situation. They fucking certainly were. They just didn't want to listen. They didn't want to do any actual fucking work. What the fuck are we paying cops for? Now we got this situation with the defund police. The idea isn't to just defund the police. The idea is to take that money that we are wasting on bad cops and put it towards actually helping the community. Now, we've got cops that are spending millions upon millions of taxpayer dollars every single year. Millions of taxpayer dollars to hide the wrongdoing of officers. Once you start defunding the police, they're still going to make sure that they spend that money to cover their own asses when they do something wrong. So that leaves less money for what they're actually supposed to be doing. Yes, they do need defunded. A lot of people are saying, well, they need to refund the police because crime is getting even worse. You know what? Crime gets worse. It does. Especially when cops are too busy trying to hide their own crimes. When that money is going to hiding their own crimes, no, it's not going to go where it needs to go. Police officers across the board knew that they would get away with the things that they were doing. They knew it because they have experience in it. Most of these guys, that's been their entire career. When somebody says cops aren't like that, my uncle's a cop. I don't give a fuck if your uncle's a cop. Is your uncle all cops? Is your uncle a good cop? Is he enforcing immoral laws? Then he's not a good fucking cop. He's not a decent excuse for a human being. The law is no measure for morality. When you were supposed to give a statement in court, they want you to promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Meanwhile, the whole court system is about preventing people from showing the truth, which is what happened every step of the way with me. Scott DeCosta, by this point, has realized that I am after his officers for not doing their jobs. Sorry, deputies. We don't have any police. There is not one police officer in all of Deuel County, Nebraska. Not even one. There is no police station here. We have one set of law enforcement. That is the Deuel County Sheriff's Department. And if there is a conflict of interest, you're supposed to go to the Nebraska State Patrol. But the Nebraska State Patrol tells you you have to go to Scott DeCosta about it. Scott DeCosta started trying to hide what his officers had done in May. Now, he probably got started earlier than that, but in May is when he made it obvious. By July, it had gotten to a very serious situation. Cody Selhorst had, on multiple occasions, attempted to run me out of town. Same thing with Jared Hahn. Now, I have to deal with moronic public pretenders like Robert Harvoy, who says stupid shit like it's not illegal to want somebody to leave. It's not illegal to want somebody to leave. That's correct. It is illegal to try to force someone to leave. It is illegal to try to intimidate someone into leaving. It is illegal to try to harass someone into leaving. And these guys didn't just try. I finally was able to get Molly Smith. This is months after Miss Peaches claimed that she was going to go in with me. This is after Mandy Hughes claimed that she would go in with me. And neither of them ever did. Whenever it came time to keep their word, there was always some bullshit excuse why they couldn't. Now, I had a telephone. There was full evidence. It was the telephone that I had before Natalie died. Molly Smith finally went in with me to try to get the cops to do their job. And unfortunately, it was Jared Hahn. But he treated me differently. The reason that he treated me differently is because Molly Smith was there. He still did not investigate. I spoke to the people that he was supposed to go talk to. He never once went and spoke with them. Jared Hahn never once went to speak to Laura Nelson about the situation. That was the situation with Jordan Anderson. Still unresolved. I had to deal with a lot of shit in multiple states. Meanwhile, they're subcategorizing it to try to hide the crimes that were committed, like Scotts Bluff, for example. That situation, the multiple situations that happened in Scotts Bluff, all of them happened because I was trying to turn in Deuel County Sheriff Scott DeCosta and his deputies. So they had me locked up and then outright lied to the hospital staff, claiming that I was at first bipolar and then later tried claiming that I was schizophrenic. And I was treated based on what the officers said, not the actual situation. Meanwhile, none of these supposed doctors ever bothered to look at any evidence. Here's the thing. If I say that there's a purple unicorn in my backyard, obviously there's not a purple unicorn in my backyard. If I tell you I was assaulted by fucking cops, that's a different story. That's not a purple unicorn. That is not Santa Claus. That is not the Easter Bunny. But these guys had to do that in order to protect their own asses. They committed misdemeanors. mostly misdemeanors. But then they wanted to, what they did was commit felonies to try to hide their misdemeanors. There were multiple situations with law enforcement, and I couldn't get a lawyer because all of my money was being eaten up by false charges, by having to travel to places where I was unsafe and then travel away from there. The courts refused to allow me a speedy trial. They refused to allow me to show evidence. They refused to allow me to face my accusers, and to this day, it still continues. So it got to the point where I literally had to break the law to try to get law enforcement to do their job. In let's start with June of 2017. There were multiple occasions where I spoke with law enforcement, including Cody Selhorst and Jared Hahn, where they blew me off. Something that I was used to since before Natalie was killed. These officers weren't doing their jobs. Molly Smith had gone in with me, and it hadn't done any good. Obviously, it wasn't going to do any good. I never should have had to go to Jared Hahn. At that point, it already should have been in the hands of the Nebraska State Patrol, because these guys not doing their jobs had resulted in multiple deaths by this point. There are well over 22 people who are dead as a result of me not being heard. And guess how many of those people I killed? None. Did I kill Natalie Bollinger? No. Did I kill Tybor Hatay? No. Did I kill Demetria Shankling? No. Did I kill Elijah McLean? No. Demetria Shankling was killed by the police. Elijah McLean was killed by the police. Tybor Hatay was killed by the police. That's right. Now, the police tactics of sending you out of jurisdiction and then working with those people in other jurisdictions to deny you your rights. Meanwhile, you can't do anything about it because you're in a different jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is used to victimize the victims. That jurisdiction is a pick and choose. Do we want this guy? Then we'll break the jurisdictional laws so that we can do whatever we want to him. And the only thing that he can do to defend himself is have someone else who gives a shit there and present. And that didn't happen. Now, Molly Smith cared enough to show up, but she didn't have the time to look at all the situations. Now, despite this, she was very angry at Officer Hahn for not doing his job. The last 3 times I spoke with her, that was the situation. She was not happy with him for the way that he treated me. So then, a couple of days before the 4th of July, there was a situation with, and I'm sure you guys have probably heard about this guy in my videos before. His name is William Barr. I went over to the Martindales because after the situation with Cody Selhorst and Chris Kurth and Jared Hahn and the abuse that I was taking and them refusing to do their jobs and refusing to investigate, it finally got to the point where I need some legal action. So in order to be able to safely turn in Scott DeCoste and his deputies, I had to have someone else there and present. This town is full of cowards and assholes. The man treatment is different from the woman treatment. If you're a woman and you ask for help, you expect that help. You expect that because you have a vagina, this help is owed to you. You have been taught that you are more oppressed than men, and men are your oppressors. Meanwhile, you don't realize how oppressive you are to men, because when a man is in that situation and he asks for help, he gets told he needs to man up. Nobody gives a shit. It's still illegal on paper to do these things to a man, but it's really not illegal, because officers aren't going to do anything about it. So a few days before 4th of July, I was able to get a hold of Region 1 to try to have a woman named Jen Beebe come down. Now, Jen Beebe is shitty at her fucking job. She was lazy. And what do I expect? I mean, really, what consequences are there for her not doing her job? There were none. I had the consequences for her not doing her job. I had the consequences for Jordan Anderson not doing his job. I had the consequences for Scott DeCoste not doing his job. I had the consequences for Jared Hahn not doing his job. I had the consequences for Cody Selhorst not doing his job. I had the consequences for those officers in Boulder County not doing their jobs. I had the consequences for the officers in Adams County not doing their jobs. I have the consequences. Now, this is right after the situation with court with Joseph Michael Lopez, where Ted Bollinger wanted to start a scene in the court. And then this woman who was pretending like she was my friend and pretending like she was an autism advocate, her name is Kara Johnson Miles from Texas. And this is an important detail because there are lots of people from out of state who their excuse for not coming forward, such as Shannon Alvarado, is that she's from out of state. They won't take it. They took a statement from a woman all the way in Texas. Why can't they take yours? They didn't take yours because you made no effort. You made zero effort. You made excuses. When it happens to a woman, you make all the excuses you can to help her. When it is a man, you make all the excuses that you can not to. So Jen Beebe showed up, right? And I'm thinking maybe she's going to help me. But no. See, this is where being tainted by an officer comes in. The officers, that being Cody Selhorst and Jordan Anderson, were there. These are literally the two deputies in Deuel County that I'm trying to turn in. And Jen Beebe was told by them that I reached for their gun and tried to suicide by cop. So Jen Beebe wasn't there to hear a thing I had to say. She wouldn't shut the fuck up and listen to what was going on. She already had it in her head what help I needed, and she was completely wrong. I explained to her that the police had tried to bully me into suicide in Chapel, Nebraska. They had tried to run me out of town, or at least I tried, but you don't get to when she's busy talking over you and interrupting you. This is right after the situation with, there's an idiot who is related to some friends of mine here in town because he married one of them. He's an idiot, and I hope that Jessica Martindale is smart enough to leave his ass sometime soon. Sorry, Jessica Barr, because she married his dumbass. Meanwhile, I've spoken to Rick Martindale since I got out of prison, too. I can't really say that I spoke to him. He came into Pump and Pantry and spoke to me. He was pleasant to me for at least 6 months before I was incarcerated, just so you know that. Was inviting me over to his house and all sorts of other stuff. But then you look at what William Barr had to say, he lied outright. He claimed that I was threatening his family. Really? Really? There is a reason that the charges were dropped. It's because these people all lied, including Sheriff Scott DeCoste. Now, when Jen Beebe came over and we were supposed to try to get something done, she was supposed to be helping me. Instead, she helped my predators to get away with it. And she had me locked up in a mental institution for suicidal ideations. Fuck suicidal ideations. I wasn't trying to kill myself. I was trying to get help. And she did exactly what it is that makes me want to fucking kill myself. I needed help and still do. Deuel County Sheriff's Department has done everything in their power to hide the truth. including committing multiple felonies, knowing full well what they were doing. And they got away with it. So when they had me sent to Scotts Bluff, it was the same exact two officers that I was trying to turn in who took me to Scotts Bluff and told the hospital at Scotts Bluff that I was bipolar and some other bullshit. And so I wasn't heard. As a result of the abuse at the hospital, because they gave me the mentally ill treatment instead of treating me like a human being or a patient, I had a lot more trouble I had to deal with. And then with my back problems and with Jen Beebe supposing to have my backpack full of evidence and making copies of it, I was there less than 20 hours on a 72-hour hold. They sent me there just long enough to get the doctors to tell them what they needed in order to justify the crimes that they had committed. Yesterday, I saw a psychologist, one of many psychologists, who, number one, say you're not schizophrenic. Number two, they say you're not bipolar. Number three, they say you are not, hold on, the word starts with a D, not demented, not delirious. Delusional, that's the word. See, if you tell somebody that you were assaulted by the police, oh, this video's over.